Good evening, everybody. I wanted to make a quick video explaining why I have come to the recent realization and decision that I believe that straight boxing is probably the best discipline to study for self-defense slash street fighting. And the reason why, anybody who's been on my Facebook page, which is probably nobody because I'm never even on my Facebook page, or on my YouTube channel, which I don't even know exactly how the stuff works, so I doubt you've been on there either. But either way, anybody who's been hanging around knows that a couple days ago, actually, downtown Indy, I was in an altercation with a homeless guy. No hand-to-hand combat actually ended up happening, but afterwards, I don't know. It was bugging me. I was running it through my head what I would have actually done had we end up coming to blows, and what the best way to go about it would have been. So I wouldn't say I have an extensive background in martial arts, but I did jiu-jitsu the majority of my way through high school. Lots of backyard boxing. Took a couple judo classes. Took some Muay Thai classes. I briefly fought MMA in 2009 and 2010. Didn't do very good. I didn't take it very seriously. I thought I was a tough guy. I was fighting at the wrong weight class, and I just wasn't disciplined enough to do it. But either way, there's years of training that I've had over several different disciplines, and so I'm thinking about this altercation I was in the other day, and what would have been the best way to handle it. And the reason that I decided to start training just straight boxing for that reason is because when it comes to something like judo and jiu-jitsu, that stuff can be great. Throws are awesome, and jiu-jitsu is obviously fantastic for whenever you're ground fighting, because most fights end up on the ground. But in this particular situation, this guy had a very bulky coat on. He was a homeless dude. I had no idea what he had on him, blah, 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 blah. I've told that story already, but you never know what anybody has in their pockets, especially when it comes to homeless people. They could have dirty needles and, just any kinds of crazy stuff like that. Or anybody else you might fight. They could have little guns on them or knives or whatever. So when it comes to something like that, I would probably prefer to keep distance. And the reason I'm leaning towards boxing more than kickboxing is because from my experience, when you're in a fight and your adrenaline is pumping, you don't really feel pain. You feel pressure. You can literally hear the thud of somebody punching your head or kicking your leg or kicking your body, but you don't really feel the pain. You just actually feel a lot of pressure. Afterwards is when it gets you. It doesn't really affect you immediately. So if I was going for a Muay Thai fighting style against this guy, sure, I could leg kick him. I could even throw punches to his body. I could throw knees to his body. And anything like that. Could have taken him down, whatever. But like I said, I want to keep my distance from somebody like that and use range the best I can. And even when it comes to body shots, you can take body shots and they don't really phase you. You can take leg kicks and they don't really phase you until later on. So if we were in a 3-round fight and I leg kicked this guy 4 or 5 times, he's going to make it through the round and not feel much. But once he goes and sits down, takes that minute break and comes back, that's when your leg goes numb. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to anymore. You can't shoot, you can't bounce. But in a street fight, which typically they normally only last, anywhere from 30 to 45 seconds generally, and they're over. I don't feel that that's the most effective way to go about it. Just, again, because your adrenaline's pumping and you don't really feel the pain. It's not enough to make you stop. So the reason I'm leaning towards boxing is, and also I should mention this, if you're fighting somebody in the street, 9 times out of 10, they're not some kind of pro fighter. Most people who study some kind of a discipline, most of them are humble. They're not really out to start shit. They probably actually get in less street fights than your average person, which is ironic. A lot of people get in fights that have no idea what the fuck they're even doing, and they do it anyway. Either way, fights don't last long. But what they do is they generally throw big haymakers, and everything they throw is basically at your head. So With boxing, you get down on your head movement. You learn how to slip left and right. You learn how to back slip. You learn how to instep and outstep. You learn how to U-slip. It's all about getting your head out of the way because that's where they're aiming for. And if you can get really good at your head movement and your foot movement and switching your positions, and then every punch that you're throwing is at their face, like I said, people won't notice much of a body shot in a quick situation like that. People don't like getting punched in the face, especially when you're not used to getting punched in the face. And also, your goal is to knock them out. I don't know about you, but I don't go out just starting shit for no reason. So if I'm street fighting somebody, I'm not taking any mercy. Because for it to come down to a street fight, I guarantee you I didn't start it. So if you started it, I'm not going to hit you until, okay, I think I won this fight. I'm going to hit you until you can't move. And if it becomes really life-threatening, I'm more of a headbutt guy. I will gouge your eyes. I'll rip your ears. I'll bite your neck. Anything you need to do to literally survive, depending on the situation. So that's the good thing about boxing, too. Everything that you can throw will be at their head or at their face, which is a lot harder for them to adjust to. You hit somebody in the eye, they immediately can't see well. You can crack them in the nose, their eyes fill up with water, they can't breathe, blood's going down the back of their throat. That can make them stop, or ultimately what you want to do is connect to the jaw and knock them out. And then once they're unconscious, then you have your freedom to get away and or find a way to keep them where they're at until proper authorities get there or something like that. So I did ponder on this for a long time. I work at a kickboxing gym, and I love it, and I love jiu-jitsu, and I've always been a martial arts fan. I've always been an MMA fan. But really thinking back on it, if anybody's trying to get into a self-defense thing, my strongest recommendation would be to get into boxing. I think that's the one kind of person you wouldn't want to mess with whenever it comes to a street fight. I think it's the safest for you to keep your distance from them, and I think it's the most effective just due to the style. Like I said, no leg kicks. Forget the body punches. They're not going to feel them, but they will feel punches. I shouldn't say feel. They'll notice punches to the face. You can cause a lot of damage, and of course, if you're able to knock them unconscious, then that's your chance to get away. So anybody who's contemplating what kind of self-defense discipline to go down, I highly recommend the straight boxing route. Get your foot movement down, get your head movement down, learn how to slip and counter at the same time, and I think that you will do just fine. God forbid that ever happens to you, but again, we never think it's going to happen to us, but if it does one day, you'll be prepared and ready. So that's my advice, and that's why I have decided, in my humble opinion, that I think that straight boxing is the best self-defense discipline if you're not training to fight, if this is purely for self-defense. I do highly recommend jiu-jitsu, especially for women. I'm always a fan of jiu-jitsu, but boxing is definitely taken number one in my mindset for right now. So if anybody disagrees or wants to have a conversation about it, leave some comments and we can go back and forth and make some fun out of it. So let me know. Have a good night.